It is Wednesday. I love Wednesdays because Wednesdays are life-giving leaders days. They are days when Dana and I, Michael, get to come here and share some thoughts and sometimes bring in other amazing speakers around life-giving leadership discussions. And we also have an opportunity to connect with our members right after the live stream and go deeper on the conversation and how it applies to our respective lives. And it's just been in a wonderful, wonderful community. Today, we are talking about something that requires intentionality, something that is energizing, something that is at the heart of life-giving leadership. Actually, it's at the heart of life-giving anything, and that is gratitude and celebration. And, I think celebration, boy, that just sounds fun. Celebration, I picture balloons, maybe some champagne, fireworks, celebration. Who doesn't love to celebrate? Yet most of us miss opportunities to celebrate. And so it really is a discipline, and gratitude is something that requires intentionality, and it's less of an emotion and it's more of a thing that we do on purpose and can become a really powerful practice in our lives. So that's the conversation today, is specifically gratitude and celebration.
Yeah. So this actually came out of last week when you were sharing with us kind of being productive from the way that was productive or is productive. And that is shown in Genesis when he created the earth. And one thing that we noted is that after he completed each day, he looked at it and he said, "It is good." He celebrated it. I mean, he's God, so he's the smartest ever. So we always want to be imitators of him. Now, the one thing, if there is one thing, we're going to talk about so many things today, but if there's one thing, and I'm going to reiterate this again at the end, that we want you to take away from this is literally to practice gratitude. And we're going to go into a list of the whys, but the one thing is to do it. And the practical way to do it is to have a time in the morning where you do some sort of gratitude exercise. And this could look different for everyone. It could be just making a list of things you're grateful for in a journal. It could be if your child jumps on the bed, talking with them about sharing with them a few things you're grateful for, hearing from them what they're grateful for. But you want first thing in the morning to be in the practice of gratitude. My most effective, what I've found is most effective for me, is entering into just some time of singing and like singing my thankfulness and directing it to God. And really, in this practice of gratitude, the brain-heart connection is really important. So you want to feel what you're thankful for. And there's so many scientific reasons for this, and we're going to get into that. But it might not feel natural at first. It can take a week or so to actually feel natural. But when it becomes part of your flow, what you'll find is you're naturally grateful all through the day. You start to become naturally grateful for and celebrate the things that you've accomplished, kind of like God did on that in those first 7 days and said, "Yeah, I got that done off my list. I'm so thankful." So that is the one thing we want you to take away. Now I'm going to go into a bunch of the whys, right? And the first why, and we talked about this last week, that I think is so crucial, especially in this time, is that it has been proven that gratitude and anxiety cannot live in your mind at the same time. Gratitude and anxiety cannot live in your mind at the same time. And we have a generation, we are in a part in history where I think anxiety is at an all-time high. So there is a simple answer for this. We can actually fight back on this by just simply choosing gratitude, by cultivating that, by having a morning practice. And when that becomes regular, you'll find you're doing it throughout the day. Now, anxiety, as defined by Dr. Edsel Voso, is the fear of the future. So anxiety is the fear of the future. Gratitude eradicates anxiety. Anxiety is the fear of the future. Now fear, so that's kind of the second point. So the first thing is gratitude removes anxiety. Second thing is knowing that anxiety is fear of the future. The third thing is that it's been proven that every decision our brain makes is rooted in two things. It's either rooted in love or it's rooted in fear. Every decision our brain makes is rooted in love or rooted in fear. Now, when we make decisions that are rooted in love, it has all the positive chemical effects. It has all the positive effects in our relationships and in our leadership and in our world. When we make the decisions based on fear, our brain actually produces inflammation, which causes sickness in our body. So all the things we don't want are rooted in fear, and all the things we do want are rooted in love. And every decision our brain makes is choosing a direction. This is neurologically proven, and it very much lines up with the Bible that says perfect love drives out all fear. So this shows us a clear dichotomy. A lot of people think, the opposite of love would be hate. No, the opposite of love would be fear. And fear, out of fear flows the things like hatred and anxiety, the things that hinder our leadership, the things that put us in fight, flight, or freeze, which hinders our creativity. It hinders our problem-solving skills. It causes us to not show up well on our team or as a leader or in our families, right? So far in the train, we're at gratitude removes anxiety. Anxiety is the fear of the future. Perfect love casts all fear. Your brain is always making decisions out of fear and love, and all the positive things, even health benefits, are out of that place of love. And something else that I've really learned in my time working with Dr. Ed Silvosa, where we've seen cities transformed, and we've seen families transformed, and we've seen individuals transformed, and is you cannot transform anything you don't love. Let me say that again. You cannot transform anything you don't love. And that is important as a life-giving leader, because you're leading a team. And a lot of times, if we're functioning in fear, we are more concerned with how we look. We're more concerned with how people see us. We're more concerned, and we will start to see the people and the things that aren't perfect as obstacles instead of loving them. And once we do that, we actually are unable to solution. We're unable to join with them. We're unable to be creative. We're unable to meet them where they are and bring them further, right? So we are talking about life-giving leadership. And so you need to come from that place of love. You want those decisions in your mind coming from love. Again, that fear will put us in fight, flight, or freeze, destroys creativity, destroys your ability to function in your native genius, in who you are and what you bring to the world and what you bring to the team. So we don't want that. But then love does all of the opposites, right? Like if you're in fight, flight, or freeze, you'll be hurried. You'll snap at team members. You'll snap at family members. But if you're in that place of love and peace that stems from gratitude, that's removing that anxiety, you can come into that place of encouragement. You can come into that place of solutioning. You can build bridges and build relationships, even in hard conversations. And you're not snapping, you're not hurried, you're not seeing people as obstacles, but you're able to now be a leader who is encouraging, right? And you are able to problem solve at your best, which is really, really that creative muscle. The more we're in gratefulness, the more we're in thankfulness, the more we're in love. Like you have so much ability to create so much good in the world. The things that you see that frustrate you, you have so much. I'm sure you've done much, but there's so much untapped ability to bring solutions there, that just a simple practice where you're removing anxiety, you're bringing in love, and you're solutioning it, it's amazing how the world opens up. And I'm talking about, it takes like a week or two of practicing gratefulness, and the whole world around you seems to change. You just see things differently, you feel different, you flow different, and it's actually amazing how much power you realize you've always had. So it's really, so again, the main thing from all of this is just practice it. Just, we've gone through so many things, but practice it. Take a practical gratitude exercise, whatever one you like the best. Could be writing in your journal. It could be, praise and worship to God. It could be talking with one of your children when they jump on the bed, whatever suits your life. But in the morning, have a daily gratitude, gratefulness exercise. Make sure you feel the thing you're saying you're grateful for. And it could be as simple as a cup of coffee. It could be like you're drinking your coffee. It's like, oh, thank you. This is so nice and so warm and so perfect right now. But making that feeling connection actually stimulates all of these positive effects in turn in your body and externally in your life and the life of those around you.
Amazing. So I have a couple of just like almost obvious questions, but it may be that someone's listening to this and might have this question or
Sure.
this thought. So let me start with the simplest one. What if I'm just having a really bad day? What if things actually suck a lot?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's when you need this the most, right?
Okay.
Because you still have something to be grateful for. And that's why I said, like, it could be something as simple as a cup of coffee. It could be something as simple, like when you can always find something like, oh, like I put on oh, thank you, God, that I have clothes to wear. Thank you that I have, we are so like we have so much. And the thing is, when you start this gratefulness exercise, once you're like a week or two in, you start to realize, wow, like how incredibly, like we mentally can ascend to the reality that, hey, we're in the top like 10 or 2% of all people, like the things that we have here, if depending on where you're living, like we have so much. And you start to realize that, and no matter where you are or what your situation is, and what has been proven is the more, even from a neurological standpoint, this is biblically always been taught, but even neurologically now, science is showing us this, the things you focus on grow. So even if you have so little that you feel positive in your life, the more you focus on that positive, the more you grow that.
When I first buy a certain kind of car, suddenly I'm seeing that car all over the place on the road. I never noticed them before. Now they seem like they're everywhere because I'm like consciously thinking about it now. If you're struggling, if you're saying, all right, I'm gonna do my gratitude time, and emotionally you're just like, I just don't feel thankful right now. Even just little things you can do, go for a walk, get your body moving, go for a swim, look at nature. Okay, I'm not thankful for anything in my life right now, but wow, that's a beautiful bird. Thank you for that bird.
Right.
Thank you. And then you start to trigger it, and then you can start to go, oh, actually, maybe there are some things in my life I'm thankful for. But like, just like, how do you trigger the flywheel?
Well, and when I was in the reason, again, it's the reason I brought up the coffee is when we were in our very deepest, darkest time, where things were very dark. That was the thing that I kept holding on to, like, thank you for this coffee. Thank you. And I would do it in a way that I would actually feel it. And it was able to pull me now into, like, when you choose that first thing, no matter how small or how simple, and you really feel the feelings of it, you've got some neurological activities going on. And then it actually opens you up to see more and more. And that's why at the beginning, that's why I really recommend a morning gratitude practice, because even in the first week or so, it might not feel so natural. But by the second or third week, you find you're naturally celebrating throughout the day. Like the most successful people I know, the people that I know that are changing the world are the people that are most grateful for the littlest things. And when I would first be around them, I'd be like, why are you celebrating that teeny weeny, like, why are you making such a big deal of that teeny weeny thing? I wouldn't say this, I would think this in my head. When you're doing like these huge things that are changing the world. But I noticed a pattern. All the people that are bringing huge change in the world are grateful for the littlest things. And I'm like, why is that? And I actually asked one of them once, and they were saying that, like, this is how I live. This is how I survive. Because when you are constantly breaking boundaries, when you are that leader you imagine yourself to be and you want to be, there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of difficulty. So if you're not in the practice of celebrating those little things, you don't have the fuel or the solutioning or even the vision to be able to like see bigger and continue to move forward. And yeah, every single one, we know an incredible amount of people that are changing the entire world, which is, I don't think it's very common. But that is common to all of them, no matter what continent they grew up on, no matter like what industry they're in, that is a common factor among all of them.
I think that's a powerful observation. I have an observation that's helped me position myself in gratitude. And it's the realization that most of my sources of stress or anxiety were once an answer to prayer. They're grounded really in something that is an answer to prayer. Good. So, for example, one of my children is stressing me out. Hypothetically speaking, I love my kids. One of my children is stressing me out. Well, guess what? We prayed to have those children. My boss at work or whatever. Well, guess what? I prayed for that job. I hurt myself shoveling the driveway. I prayed for a 4-car driveway or a 7-car driveway or whatever. And so it's just kind of like regrounding myself and like, wait a minute. Or if you and I have a disagreement, it's like, wait a minute, she's an answer to prayer for me. And so like usually it's actually a blessing. Yeah. It's actually a blessing that we fear. So just kind of pausing and like, hey, let me reground myself in the truth of the foundation of this thing, how it entered my life. This is an answer to prayer. So now I can say, you know what? I can say my car may have broken down, but thank you, Lord, for providing this car. Whatever it is, I can always ground myself in the origin story of that thing entering my life was grounded in a blessing.
Yeah, actually, and while you're talking, there's a few things that you're hitting on. The first thing that I was thinking about when you were talking is how so many of the things that cause, you were saying, stress now are things we prayed for. But I also think of how many of the things were causing stress that are not anymore. Like there really is this too shall pass. Like when we're in the middle of it, it feels like it's forever. And if we stay in that mindset, I think we continue to cultivate the problem that we're concerned about. But when we get into gratitude, it does pass. Like things do move. Like it's not, and you have there will be problems in this world. We cannot choose that there will not be problems. And you know what? The more successful you are, the bigger the problem, the more things that you're doing that you want to be doing, like you will have, but you have control over how you see them. You have control over how you see the world. You have control over how you wire or now rewire your brain to be able to have that fuel to do those things. And then the second thing that your comments brought me back to is so I talked about how our brains are wired, that they're always choosing love or fear. And when they choose fear, this creates inflammation. This is where illness comes from our body. It's fascinating to study this. And when you choose love, we attract those things that we desire in our life. And this is science. This is the scientific evidence that supports the biblical truth that perfect love drives out all fear. But the part of this that I didn't talk about in this moment is the fact that our brain, they've found that our brain is actually wired to always be in conversation with a third party. And that third party is either feeding us love or feeding us fear. Now, for Christians, we would, okay, that's either taught when we're talking to God and we're present with him, or when we're engaging with something else, or even our own fears or anxieties, right? So this is now about being present. There's so much talk about the power of just being present in the moment,
Right.
being present with yourself. Like if you are slowing down, if your mind is at peace, if you're not anxious, so you're not snapping at people or you're not hurried. We talked in the members room about the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, last week. Incredible book, right? If you're not in that hurried place and you're having that conversation with God or with love, or as the neuroscience calls it, you're not making decisions out of a fear of not being good enough. You know that you're being supported. You know that you're covered. The people around you and the problems around you are not a threat. So you're able to be present, to slow down, to make those decisions, to bring those solutions, and to bring that positive change in the world that you want to be. And that's some of the thoughts that kind of were percolating as you were talking.
I want to take this all the way to like, how does this actually affect my leadership? Because everything that we talked about, having that posture of gratitude, it's not just about the direct gratitude. So for example, it's not just about, the certain issue stressing me out, but I should be thankful about that certain issue. I wanted to also take it all the way to like the general sense of gratitude in life.
That's right.
Having the practice of gratitude in life affects how I show up to any given situation. So I was thankful for the bird and the coffee this morning. Now I'm going to facilitate a more effective leadership strategy planning session. So that's a literal translation, and because it shows up in how like my demeanor, my posture, my aura, if you will.
That's what I've been talking about this entire time. What is the second thing you mentioned?
No, that I'm saying that to amplify what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Because you mentioned something else. What were you referring to in the other?
I was just calling out the distinction between the direct impact of direct gratitude. So this rock is stressing me out, but I thank God for this rock. And so it changes my relationship with the rock. But then separately is just me generally having that posture of gratitude, which I think is the truer essence of what we're talking about. Having that posture of gratitude affects how I show up, affects people's experience with me.
So I don't know. I don't know that we need to be thankful for, I think in hindsight, so I don't know that I'd want to be thankful for something negative in the forced sense. I don't actually know that I agree with that. I do agree with seeing the purpose in suffering, for example, and so embracing it for the purpose that it's going to lead to a better end if I see it. So there's brain science that talks about the way you see something coming in will actually change your ability to deal with it, right? So say even things that say I do something I don't like say I see a behavior in myself that I'm not actually pleased with. If I approach it with curiosity, like, oh, why did I do that? Where did that come from? Then I can actually solution it and use it to make me a better person and process that thing to fullness through many different things, the ways that we teach that'll help you process that to fullness and remove it from your neurology and remove it from your heart. And it can be a solution. I think that there is kind of this false, like anytime I see something negative, I have to kind of force myself to say I'm thankful for it when I'm not. I don't ascribe to that. I do think like appreciating suffering for the positive effect that it can have if I respond to it properly is absolutely necessary to life.
You don't want to lie to yourself
because suffering exists. Yeah, I don't want to just say you have to be thankful for negative things because we do this thing that actually causes brain damage. Like if we're actually saying, oh, I'm thankful for this negative thing, and you're not thankful for it, you're actually causing cognitive dissonance, which is a slight form of brain damage. And the more you do that, the less you trust yourself. And the less you trust yourself, the less you're going to show up in your native genius, right? So I do think suffering has such a, first of all, it's necessary and it has a place, and it can make us better and it can grow us, and if we respond to it properly. But I don't ascribe to saying, hey, you have to be thankful for everything in this fake way, because it's actually destructive.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I think all I was trying to get across was, if I have a practice of gratitude in my life, I am becoming the kind of person that people want to be around, people want to work with, people want to, in a generic sense. Maybe the principle here is that gratitude is attractive and the grateful are attractive.
Right. And I'm actually, and I'm not saying this because we're saying that, but I'm actually super grateful for you. And I wasn't trying to oppose what you were saying. I was trying to understand what you were saying, because I did see there was a dichotomy and I wasn't sure what exactly I was misunderstanding.
I'm very attracted to you right now. Amazing. So hopefully you get in the spirit of this, but again, we always want to translate this to application. I don't just want you to listen to a conversation and go, yeah, good point. That's a really good point.
No,
I'm putting that on a t-shirt, and that's totally, I'm going to quote that on social media. No, it's about, how do I translate this today to allow me to become life-giving for others and to be taking in life for myself. So my question to you, have you practiced gratitude today? If not, take a moment now. We're going to close this a couple of minutes early and go into the members' discussion. So take a couple of minutes before it hits 12:30 or whatever time it is in your time zone, and just practice gratitude. What are you thankful for? You can write it down. You can say it out loud. You can share it with somebody.
And a secret that all of our clients have heard me say a million times, and I've got this one from Dr. Carolyn Leaf, is if your mind's drawing a blank on what is that thing you're grateful for, or if your mind's drawing a blank on how to solution or how to respond to someone or how, any of those things, take a deep breath in through your nose, 3 seconds, and then breathe it out for 7 seconds, or 11 seconds. But breathe out for longer than you're breathing in. You clear up any excess cortisol in the front of your brain, and you're able to think clearly. So even to your question, like, what if you can't think of something? Even taking a minute or two to breathe, and you can do it up to 9 times if you need to, will help clear that and help you have something come to mind to start the ball rolling.
Amazing. Practice gratitude, celebrate the wins, even the small ones. Members, we'll see you on the other side. All right.